Transmigrated as a child's mother, striving to become a winner. Chapter 1. The Stepmother Novel's Villainous Biological Mother. Su Qian touched her now fever-free forehead and let out a long sigh. What was going on? She had transmigrated into a tragic love story novel, where she lived miserably and died even more tragically. That was essentially the life of the original character. In a novel about a wicked stepmother, there would always be that one mother everyone frowned upon and found repulsive, and very unfortunately, she was now that mother. Su Yang got into a fight with another child. Su Yang's mother, please come over. Su Qian had barely accepted her new reality after 2 hours when she received a call from her son's kindergarten teacher. Before she could respond, the teacher hung up as if issuing an order. Recalling the fragmented memories of this teacher, Ms. Zhang, Su Qian smirked coldly. The original character often got played around by this teacher. Never having been married in her past life, Su Qian now suddenly found herself with a son. The identity shift left her somewhat at a loss, but her greatest strength was her adaptability and tenacity. Now being a mother, regardless of how unruly the child might be, the responsibility was inevitable. Glaring at her current outfit before leaving the house, Su Qian showed clear disdain. As a fashion icon and master of clothing design, she couldn't tolerate the mismatched attire she was wearing. Putting down the keys in her hand, Su Qian ripped her linen shirt to make an opening and used a curtain tie to cinch her waist, showing off her slender figure. She rolled up her pants to ankle length and tied her hair into a high ponytail, revealing her elegant swan neck. After some adjustments, Su Qian strutted down the street with no one suspecting she had a child. Although she was in her 20s, she had been living like an old lady, which was just ruining herself. The original didn't like makeup, and she couldn't find even a lipstick at home. So, she picked up a dragon fruit, smeared some juice on her lips, and had a pure, natural lipstick instantly. Her looks were naturally stunning. With just a bit of lipstick and a change of clothes, she looked like an entirely different person. Su Qian's transmigration was not without explanation. She looked exactly identical to the original owner. Given the unexplainable circumstances, she treated it as a parallel universe for the time being. Smiling brilliantly at herself in the mirror, Su Qian thought, no matter where you are, you have to live, right? At the kindergarten nurse's office, Su Qian immediately noticed her son lying on the hospital bed with a white cloth on his forehead, his cheeks puffed up like a dumpling. Seeing his mother, Su Yang's expression froze, and he turned his head away. Su Yang had a pair of beautiful peach blossom eyes, thick eyelashes like small fans, milky white skin, and chubby cheeks with chestnut-colored natural curls. He looked just like a cherub from a magazine. No wonder the original favored her son, spoiling him to no end. He was just too adorably charming. Staring at Su Yang, Su Qian didn't say a word, making him uncomfortable. He reluctantly turned his head, pouted, and said, "Why are you here?" Then, a bit stiffly, he added, "I told you the medicine was in the cabinet by the door before I left for school. Did you take it?"
Su Qian smiled.
The little rascal actually cared about his mommy. Just then, the kindergarten teacher walked briskly up, immediately pointing fingers. "Su Yang's mom, why didn't you call me?" The information of parents with children registered at the kindergarten allowed them to follow security protocols without contacting the teacher. Su Qian had not contacted the teacher upon entering. Instead of explaining what happened or apologizing, the teacher chose to scold Su Qian for not calling her first. Su Qian's eyes narrowed, a glint of coldness flashing through them. Would this teacher dare use such an attitude with other parents? It was clear she bullied the weak. Taking a glance at her son lying on the bed, seemingly used to the situation, Su Qian ignored the teacher and bent down to check Su Yang's wound. There was a minor scratch, not deep. On an adult it would heal in a few days, and it was no big deal for Su Yang either. Su Qian was slightly relieved and asked, "Any other injuries?" Su Yang pouted and shook his head. He glanced at the teacher's ashen face behind Su Qian and was puzzled. Why did his mom seem different? Su Yang's mom, you are so rude. I was talking to you, the teacher said angrily. Using such a high and mighty tone, Su Qian responded icily, why didn't you mention my son's injury on the phone? Crossed arms and a frosty tone, her lightly raised eyebrow conveyed an innate authority. The teacher was stunned. Was this really Su Yang's mom? And this new style? He was arguing with another child, Suzy Han, and accidentally got hurt, the teacher stiffly replied. Su Qian sneered, last time, when my son merely pushed Suzy Han, making him cry without any injury, you called me to apologize. So why today, only I am here? The teacher's face turned unpleasant. Having accepted a shopping card from Suzy Han's mom, she naturally favored him. Previously, she had counted on Su Qian's timid nature to apologize, intending to please Suzy Han's parents, showing she valued their son. She hadn't expected Su Qian to mention it today or to react this way. Call those parents here. Certain matters are better discussed with parents, not children. Her commanding tone made Ms. Zhang hesitate before instinctively following instructions. She then tried to persuade, Is Su Yang's mom, kid squabbles. Is Suzy Han's mother's gift card that valuable to you, Ms. Zhang? Should I discuss the amount with the principal first?
Su Qian interrupted.
The words stifled the teacher's response. Even the original knew, although she once considered bribing Ms. Zhang, she eventually gave up due to financial constraints. With such blatant words, Ms. Zhang couldn't argue and left in a huff, her high heels clicking angrily. She couldn't help but wonder if something had happened to Su Yang's mom today. Left alone in the nurse's room, Su Qian sat by the bed, tenderly asking, tell mommy what happened. Su Yang responded coldly, what's the point of telling you? Given the original's timid nature, she usually ended up too flustered to defend herself, even if she had justifiable reasons. From now on, if you're not in the wrong, we don't apologize, Su Qian said firmly, staring into Su Yang's eyes with unprecedented determination. Su Yang had not expected his mother to defend him and didn't initially respond. After some silence and seeing his mother's unyielding gaze, Su Yang eventually relented and recounted the incident. Conflicts between children were often simpler. In this case, Suzy Han accused Su Yang of stealing his eraser, which he denied, leading to the argument. Despite being only 5, Su Yang inherited his mother's sharp tongue to the point where even she sometimes couldn't retort. Chapter 2. The humiliated biological mother rises. Suzy Han couldn't out-argue Su Yang, so he threw a pencil in anger. The pencil bounced off the desk and hit Su Yang's forehead. I didn't steal it. I didn't do anything wrong this time either. Su Yang persistently emphasized his innocence. The original character used to always say that her child was at fault in some way, no matter what, making big issues small and small issues non-existent. Yes, you're not wrong, Su Qian reassured, tucking Su Yang back into bed. Mom won't apologize to them either. Su Yang's lashes fluttered as he lowered his gaze, clearly skeptical. Soon after, the teacher led Suzy Han's mother, who lived nearby, into the room. Is 5,000 yuan enough to cover your son's medical and nutritional expenses? The moment they met, Suzy Han's mother tried to pressure them with money. Dressed in the latest ES collection, a thumb-thick gold necklace around her neck, large diamond earrings, and a diamond ring on her finger, Suzy Han's mother exuded an air of ostentatious wealth. When speaking to Su Qian, she raised her chin and looked down, appearing very superior. Seeing her arrogance, Su Qian's anger boiled. She spotted a fruit knife in the drawer below the counter and began twirling it in her hand. Pointing the knife tip at Suzy Han's mother, Su Qian coldly said, his wound is 1 centimeter long. Considering the child's delicate skin, that equates to a 2 centimeter cut on an adult. How about this same cut on your face? Would 5,000 yuan be enough? Suzy Han's mother retreated in fear, feeling that the knife might fly at her any second. Su Qian sneered, no sense of humor. Weren't you joking with me just now? Didn't I respond properly? Her face turning serious, Su Qian continued slowly, "Apologize. Have Su Zihan apologize to my son." Su Zihan's mother immediately burst out in rage, feeling emboldened by the passing security guard outside. Slapping the table, she stepped forward. Why should my son apologize? My child never lies. Just because he got hurt doesn't mean he's wrong. There are surveillance cameras in the kindergarten classroom that record everything. We can watch the footage, Su Qian replied calmly. Su Yong watched silently from the side, feeling that his mother had indeed changed. In the past, she would have apologized to this Luhua chicken ear by now. Luhua chicken ear was Su Yang's nickname for Su Zihan's mother, as her speaking rhythm resembled the clucking of the mottled hen raised by Mr. Niu downstairs. Fine, let's watch it. Su Zihan's mother stormed toward the surveillance room. Ms. Zhang followed closely. She wasn't actually aware of what had happened, but relaxed upon hearing Su Yang was injured. Su Yang's mother had always been easy to deal with. When Su Yang's thumb was cut in a previous fight, his mom didn't react strongly. Why was she so explosively reactive this time? Ms. Zhang wiped the sweat off her forehead and followed while shouting for Su Zihan's mother to slow down and watch her step, being very attentive along the way. Su Qian, meanwhile, stroked Su Yang's cheek and said, "Go to sleep." Su Qian, this time you don't have to apologize." Su Yang, who hadn't taken his afternoon nap, was so sleepy he could barely keep his eyes open. He rarely called her mom, and mostly referred to her by her name, Su Qian. All right." Hearing Su Qian's affirmation, Su Yang smiled, his cheeks revealing dimples. As he gradually closed his eyes, he suddenly remembered something. Struggling against his heavy eyelids, he said, "Su Zihan is a nuisance. I didn't steal his eraser. I think it's ugly anyway. Will his mom hit you?" Finally showing some childlike behavior in his drowsy state, Su Yang no longer spoke like a little adult. Don't worry, mom can handle it." After Su Yan's assurance, Su Yang succumbed to sleep. Watching her son sleep peacefully, Su Qian's mind drifted back to the past. The original character had miserably failed as a mother, always making her 5-year-old son worry. Leaning down to kiss Su Yang's forehead, Su Qian smiled. When obedient, even the brattiest kids could be endearing. The original character never managed the child properly, allowing everything to suit Su Yang's whims. Rubbing Su Yang's cheek with the back of her hand, Su Qian thought, "You little rascal, your reign as the head of this household is coming to an end. You're a thief." "I'm not." The surveillance footage showed the two children arguing over an eraser on the floor. Clearly, Su Yang was being falsely accused. Su Qian thought that the children's conflict wasn't a big deal. Clear things up and have Su Zihan apologize, and that should be it. But Su Zihan's mother was relentless. Unable to swallow her pride, she insisted, "I'll pay whatever medical and nutritional costs you want, but there will be no apology. Su Yang is also at fault. My son was pinned down by him. If you don't believe me, watch the rest of the footage." Before coming, Su Zihan's mother had asked her son what happened. Su Zihan said nothing, but she heard from other children that Su Yang had pinned him down and would have beaten him if not for the timely intervention of the teacher. Su Yang's punches were notoriously painful, something known by all the kids in the kindergarten senior class. Su Qian didn't reply, not even glancing at Su Zihan's mother. She just continued watching the footage. What happened next made Su Qian furious. "You don't have a dad, so you stole the eraser my dad bought me." Su Zihan, scared by the sight of Su Yang injured, accused him without thinking. Su Zihan, wanting to make sure Su Yang admitted to stealing his eraser, forgot not to mention that Su Yang didn't have a dad, knowing it would provoke him. Engrossed in rubbing the pencil mark on his clothes, Su Yang looked up abruptly, his face flushing with anger. Clenching his fists, he lunged at Su Zihan. Both children tumbled onto the classroom's padded floor, but the teacher arrived in time to break up the fight. Glaring coldly at Susie Han's mother, Su Qian said, This is what you call at fault. Apologize. Children could be both innocently naive and cruelly blunt, unaware of the damage their words could cause. Su Qian's gaze lingered on her son's tender face in the footage, her heart aching. How much do you want? Name your price. Susie Han's mother continued her ostentatious behavior. She didn't want to lower herself before Su Qian. Fixing her eyes on Susie Han's mother, Su Qian slowly said, apologize. At that moment, they were not alone watching the footage. 2 security guards and another 2 teachers were present. What if I don't apologize? Susie Han's mother, unwilling to back down, turned the room tense. When you make a mistake and don't apologize, you deserve to be punished. Of course, some people are just poorly raised. Su Qian had not finished her sentence when Susie Han's mother lunged at her, shouting, You little bitch. I'll rip your mouth apart. Just waiting for this moment, Su Qian's eyes flashed. She grabbed Susie Han's mother's wrist, tripping her to the ground. Unseen by the others or the cameras, she drove her knee into Susie Han's mother's stomach and twisted her flesh with her left hand. From the moment they met, Su Qian had wanted to hit this woman. Chapter 3. The mother continues to show her power. Originally aggressive and ready to fight, Su's mother was thrown to the ground by Su Qian before she even made contact, causing her to howl in pain. People rushed to help her up, and the scene descended into chaos. Mrs. Su, your stance was quite intimidating. Truly scared me. Who would have thought you'd be so useless? Su Qian pulled up a chair and sat down, wearing a faint smile with a sarcastic tone. Covering her stomach and trembling with anger, Mrs. Su was furious. No one had ever dared to treat her this way since her family became wealthy. You dare hit me? Call the police. Call the police and have her arrested. Turn left when you exit the kindergarten, and the police station is right there. It's faster than waiting for them to come. That said, justified self-defense isn't illegal in our country. The surveillance recorded everything. This wasn't a child's quarrel. Parents aren't allowed to throw tantrums. I have a case I can present. Knowing she was in the wrong for initiating the fight, Mrs. Su stopped shouting about calling the police. She sat up, pointing at Su Qian and gritting her teeth. I was initially willing to let this go, but you refused my olive branch. This isn't over. With that, Mrs. Su pulled out her phone, and the teacher standing behind her saw the phone screen, her face slightly changing. She mouthed to the others, her husband. The security guards and teachers became more attentive. The security guard went to fetch a chair, and Ms. Zhang nudged aside another teacher to pat Mrs. Su's back and comfort her. Mrs. Su's husband ran a local company, wielding considerable influence in City B. In local parlance, he was a local canon, a native born with extensive local connections. A single word from him could make life difficult for a single mother like Su Qian in City B. The phone rang repeatedly, without an answer. Endless meetings every day, always on silent. Mrs. Su complained angrily, shutting off her phone. She picked up her car keys from the table and glared at Su Qian. You think you're tough? Just wait. I'll have you begging on your knees soon enough. Just don't leave. Seeing that Su Qian didn't even look at her, Mrs. Su's chest heaved with greater anger. She vowed internally not to let this bitch off. Su Qian completely ignored Mrs. Su's one-woman show. She borrowed a phone from security and recorded the surveillance footage. Su Yang's mom, where are you going? Having seen Mrs. Su off, Ms. Zhang returned only to see Su Qian heading towards the classroom. I'm clearing my son's name. A teacher can't differentiate right from wrong. A mother can't be confused. Su Qian's sarcastic remark left Ms. Zhang's expression frozen. Recalling Su Qian's series of actions earlier, she hesitated to stop her. Holding the video, Su Qian walked into Su Yang's classroom. She introduced herself and then played the video for the children. Oh, so Su Yang didn't steal the eraser. We misunderstood him. Children are simple in their thinking. They recognize mistakes as mistakes, without adding any other factors. Blushing furiously, Su Zihan, recalling that his favorite cartoon says admitting faults makes a good child, stood up and said, Su Yang's mom, I'm sorry. I'll go apologize to Su Yang. Me too. Me too. Half the class followed to the infirmary to apologize. Smiling, Su Qian thought, your children are like a blank canvas, they become whatever you paint them. It's heartening that these kids aren't hopeless like Mrs. Su. Su Yang, woken by the noise, rubbed his eyes. Hearing apologies from his classmates, he looked at the doorway where Su Qian stood. Listening to his classmates' guilty apologies, Su Yang was surprised. Did his mom actually pull this off? Su Yang, will you forgive them? Su Qian asked her drowsy son.
Su Yang hụt phẹt.
I won't hold it against them. Great. Thank you, Su Yang. Thanks for forgiving us. Children need role models. One child apologizing might be awkward, but with so many, it looked like a competition in sincerity, each apology louder than the last. All right, kids, back to class. Su Yang needs to rest. Su Qian beckoned the children back to class. After watching Su Yang fall asleep, Su Qian got up and headed to the teacher's office to confront Ms. Zhang. Unbeknownst to her, 2 minutes after she left, Su Yang's eyelashes fluttered, and he opened his eyes. Seeing no one around, he jumped out of bed, put on his shoes, and sneaked out of the infirmary. Due to the day's events, the principal had called all the teachers for a meeting in the office, leaving one teacher to watch the children, who were watching cartoons and dozed off at the door. Su Yang sneaked into the classroom and called Su Zihan outside. At the kindergarten slide. Su Yang, what do you want? Didn't you forgive me?
Su Zihan whispered.
Except for Su Zihan, all the kindergarten children feared Su Yang. His courage to confront him earlier came from his love for his duck-shaped eraser. Su Yang huffed, his small hand forming a fist. I forgave you for accusing me, but not for saying I don't have a dad. Su Zihan tightly pursed his lips, wanting to cry but didn't dare. Then, sorry. I won't say it again, okay? No, I need to flick your forehead. Otherwise, others will think it's okay to say I don't have a dad. Su Yang, even at a young age, knew how to teach by example. Okay, just be gentle, Su Zihan dared not refuse. While Su Yang was meting out his own justice, Su Qian was not backing down either. In the office, she took Ms. Zhang's record book and threw it on the floor in front of the principal and other teachers. What good is writing all this down? People like you violate teaching ethics, but keep up appearances. Ms. Zhang stared blankly at her book on the floor, then shrieked, Su Yang's mom, what are you doing? I know you resent me for seating Su Yang at the back, but he's the tallest in class. Sitting at the front blocks others. Besides, I said seats are rotated weekly. Su Qian sneered, Ms. Zhang, quiet down. Can an emotionally unstable teacher educate students properly? Su Qian's question cut Ms. Zhang's tearful complaints short. The colleagues handing Ms. Zhang tissues to wipe her tears displayed awkward expressions. Ms. Zhang had always been temperamental. Ms. Yang, let me say something. You came in and threw the book down first, the principal objectively pointed out. Parents were important, but she also needed to protect her staff. Su Qian clapped her hands. Principal Ding, rather than blindly defending your employees, how about investigating what she has done? It would be far more useful. Ms. Zhang's face turned beet red. Her intention had been to provoke Su Yang's mother into a verbal confrontation. In her anger, Anything Su Yang's mom said could be more easily dismissed, giving her a chance to explain herself. But Su Yang's mother remained poised, fearlessly confronting even the principal, completely unlike her usual quiet self. Ms. Zhang felt a sinking dread. You must really be exemplary to have taught my son for 3 years, always landing under your care despite the random class assignments, a stroke of bad luck. Su Qian sighed and shook her head, indicating how much she detested having her son in Ms. Zhang's class, leaving Ms. Zhang mortified in front of her colleagues. Ms. Yang, can we talk in my office? The principal sensed something more and invited Su Qian for a private discussion.